All right, hey, and welcome everybody. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is This Week in Prophecy. I hope everybody's doing well today. It is still, in my mind, it is still Thanksgiving, or excuse me, not Thanksgiving, 4th of July weekend, and hopefully you all had a great time. If you're probably noticing, I'm wearing my "In God We Still Trust" shirt. I'm going to probably say more about this. You know, I have not said really much about it in the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to probably say a little bit more about it a little later. But that's for a different thing. For those of you, this might be your first time checking out the show. We come on about once a week, talk to you about what's going on in the prophetic world, and there's a lot of things going on. And if you're watching us on YouTube and if you've not subscribed to the channel, just go ahead and there's a subscribe button over there someplace. Just hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends all about it and that they could subscribe to the channel also. And I know a lot of you have been waiting for this announcement. Excuse me once again. Do we have Godstream up yet? Are we up on Godstream? Yes, folks, we are up on Godstream TV now. You can actually get all of the old shows, and now the brand new ones are up now also. And so just go up to the top bar up there and you can check out Godstream, This Week in Prophecy on Godstream TV. So much more to talk to you about. But let's before we do all that, folks, we want to definitely bring on my partner in crime. I know I say that and he doesn't like that, but that's what he is. He's my partner in crime, Aaron Newton. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's happening? I'm good.
You're good?
Just hanging out, yeah. Trying to get out of this heat. Oh my goodness.
We both are very patriotic here today. You've got your United States shirts on, and yes, I got the eagle. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot I left my flag out all weekend, and I bought like the extra big, flag with pole, and so yeah. No, it was good. I had to bring it in yesterday. I forgot.
Is it like as big as the one that's out in front of the White House?
Just about, man.
Just about. It's a big one, huh? That's all right.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. We need to be a nation that really, I think, has more pride in our nation. I think so. And because if we don't, guess who's going to do it?
Yeah, that's a tough. It's a great thing to have pride in your home. You have pride in your house and your country and your fellow people. This is just something that's been going on for a few years now, where people are, I don't know what, they're just kind of brainwashed. I think I remember when I was in the Navy, and I think it was 2003. I went to New York for this maritime festival, and everybody was so patriotic, and like I couldn't buy anything for myself. Like it was just, people invited us over to the people, like me and my friends were out, and these people invited us over to their house, and they barbecued food, and we had such a great time, and but before 9/11, I was stationed in Virginia, and they just did not like military.
Isn't that amazing?
I don't know. It was weird, yeah.
But they love the military when we're in danger. When we're in danger, I'll tell you. When 9/11 hit, man, I'll tell you, there wasn't a military guy that was walking on the road that didn't get, like you said, didn't get his dinner bought for him. People said, "Hey, come into my house. Bring your M16 with you. Bring all the guys with you. Just stay at my house, right?" And so
they used to protest in front of the Oceana Air Base. They didn't like the jet noise over their houses, and then the day after 9/11, the certain signs turned around like "Thank you."
Yeah. Well, we salute you, bro. We salute you, and I think it looks like Apostle Philip's on there. Hey, how's it going? I'm going to say hello to him real quick. Yeah. I'm going to call this Philip. I know it's. Hope I'm spelling his name right. So I want to thank everybody though. But we finally so many people know that this show is not only on our YouTube channel, but you can go to Godstream TV and check it out there. And Godstream TV is just getting bigger and bigger all the time, which is amazing. Change the format a little bit. Change the software and everything else. So it's taken a little while to work all the kinks out of it. But we were able to today, literally today, to get all of the shows off of the old website, and they're on the new website now. So which is cool. So and it looks really cool too. So if you'd like to and you want to get on there, yeah, and if you'd like to get on there, it looks great. And just tell your friends. Just tell your friends. Go to Godstream TV, and then bring down This Week in Prophecy, and you can check it all out. A lot of stuff been going on this week, man. I mean, just a lot of stuff has been going on. And Aaron, you actually had something you wanted to talk, because we weren't on last week, and
Right.
but you actually. So if you want, what we can do is we can actually talk a little bit about what happened last week, because I thought it was pretty cool. We did talk between last week and this week, and maybe kind of talk about some new stuff this week. What do you think of that?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I sent them all to myself today. So just then, I always send whatever we talk about. I send it in the email to myself, so I know, you know. So I
Uh-huh.
got them all. Uh, yeah, it's. I actually, before we start on that, I wanted to mention something to you, because
Yeah, sure.
2 weeks ago we had talked about mayors and local government officials, and we
Mm-hmm.
had talked about how these socialists and people with like Muslims, how they
Mm-hmm.
were getting into through that, right, from the bottom up
Sure.
kind of thing. And
Yes.
then I don't know what it was like 2 days later. I never even heard of that guy, the guy in
You're
New
talking about
York.
Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. Never even. I didn't even know that guy was running for office in New York.
Yes.
And so a couple days later, he comes on and sent that. And I've been kind of following it, because, that
Mm-hmm.
was something. You know, definitely the Holy Spirit was talking that moment, like, watch these things, right? We're watching these
Mm-hmm.
things, and then here comes something big. So,
Yeah.
um, I've been watching, and this guy, he's out of hand, man. That guy is out of hand
Think so?
with the things that they want to push.
You think so? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his views are very radical, and many people already know that this guy's probably a socialist, if not a communist. Um, Sean Hannity calls him Mamdani the commie. You know,
He's
because
that guy's something else too.
but I think, and I don't know if you and I were talking about it. I might have been talking to somebody about it, but he's akin to Barack Obama. And what I mean by that is Barack Obama, when he was running for office, what was it, 2012 or whatever it was, um, he he
Eight.
said he said something very interesting. He said, "I'm going to fundamentally change America," and
Mm.
and people said, "Oh, he's such a nice guy." I go, wait, did you just hear what he just said? And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to fundamentally change America. We're going to do this. We're going to do that." And you can say whatever you want to say about the guy. Okay, I think he was probably the worst president that's ever been on American soil, but he was never a liar. He said, "I'm going to screw you guys up, and I'm going to fundamentally change America." And he brought in stuff, and he sweet talked everybody, and that's why Mamdani is the same thing. Mamdani's already told everybody what he's going to do. He says, "I'm going to socialize this, I'm going to socialize that, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah." And he's telling you all these things he's going to do. And people, I think, this go around should probably listen to this guy, because he's not lying to you. He's going to do exactly what he said he's going to do. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's gonna do what he said and worse. I don't. We had talked about it 2 weeks ago, where
Mm-hmm.
you know I really believe that right now it's only the president of the United States that has to be an American-born citizen to
Mm-hmm.
run for president. But I definitely
Mm-hmm.
feel like that law needs to go down the chain, because you don't we have had world wars, and we haven't really seen that, where they infiltrated a nation first before attacking them in this way, right? There's no patience.
Mm-hmm.
It was, back then it was like, okay, we're going to have this lightning war, the Germans said, and we're just going
Yeah.
to steamroll across Europe, and they did. But
Yeah.
now, these countries don't have the capability of steamrolling across the United States
Mm.
or wherever, you know. And so, okay, well, we're going to have to do it a different way, a new kind of war where we're going to infiltrate first and then do, how, their only really way to attack America is through terrorism. But I just, I really believe that to be in any kind of political office, you have to be an American born citizen. That's just,
Yeah.
it's, you, I mean, I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
funny when the founding fathers set up the whole thing, and even so, all of it, everything we have our all of our laws, all of our civic platforms are all based upon the Bible. And when they started figuring out ways of making laws to for our leaders and everything else, they looked to the Bible and they said, "Hey, what did the Bible do?" Well, the Bible says, guess what? Don't allow any foreigners to be the leaders over your people. These people can hang out with you, but you never make them leaders over you. Well, that's what, and so our founding fathers go, hey, that sounds good to us. If it's good for the Bible, it's good for us. And where they fell short was that they did not say any leader. they just said the president. They said the president cannot
Hmm.
be a foreign born, and they should have said anybody who wants to be a leader at any level, because it would be tantamount to oh gosh, I don't know if you could actually do it now, where you could retroactively say, okay, if you were not born in this country and you are an American citizen, the date that you were sworn in, then you cannot serve as a representative of this country. Because we've got so many people who say, well, that's not what you guys said before. You'd have the ACLU, you would have all kinds of craziness. But I think that, so why do you think, other than the fact that, we've got outside forces that are trying to infiltrate, why do you think that that's another important thing for a civic leader to be an American citizen as opposed to a foreign born person?
Why would it be important to be American citizen?
Yeah,
Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, these people make laws for us. They make
mhm,
laws. They govern us. Why? I just like I said, the other countries, you know, whatever our enemy is at the time or will be in the future or however
mhm.
they plan to hurt us, um, that is just, there's no reason for them to not say, hey, we're gonna send this man, raise him up in 6 years to be the mayor of New York City.
Mhm.
There's no, and especially if the people in our own country have sold us out. Not say
Yeah.
everybody, but certain individuals have
Oh yeah.
sold us out to these people because I'll say this. We talked about a dream I had where I was standing on the beach and I was, or not standing on the beach. I'm sorry. I was watching a court case
Mhm.
and it was Ilhan. No, it was Rashida Tlaib. Do you remember that? It was a while ago, but I saw her crying and she'd just been convicted of treason. And the judge said, "Well, we can execute you, or we can send you back to the countries that you came from." And then he said Palestine and Somalia, and she said, "Well, I'm an American. You can't do that to me." And he's like, "Okay, death it is," and took her away to be executed.
Mm.
The other day, and so you have Muslim people from Somalia in
Yeah.
Congress, and they're making the most amount of trouble. They're
Sure.
not like doing good for the people. They're making the most amount of trouble.
Yeah. Sure.
So, I mean, really, this is what we want? Somebody who hates our country to come in
Yeah.
and govern us.
Well, this is not. This
Anyways,
is not. This is nothing new though for our country. I mean, even in the early days of our country, this has been a ongoing thing. The first war we ever had was against Muslim nations, and subsequent years after that, it was the same thing over and over again. And now. I see where you're going on this whole thing. We're not trying to be racist, folks. So I know some people are watching. They're going, "Well, you guys are talking about Muslims a lot." Well, we're not saying Muslims are bad. Okay, we're saying that we're seeing a pattern here. There's a pattern here, and when you see a pattern, you got to start putting your finger going, huh? Is that good or is that not good for our nation? Our nation was built upon Christian, Judeo-Christian ethics. Our nation was built upon the Bible. Our founders said, guess what? Our Constitution is for a Christian nation. It is not compatible with somebody who's not Christian. And so by us allowing non-Christians to rule over us, they're going to buck that system, you know? And now we've got this Mamdani guy who's obviously not a Christian, that he's going to be, he could possibly be the mayor of the number one city on the planet. That's scary. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, so let me just hit on this point. The other day, there's a person I listen to every morning, and she's a prophet, and she gets words, often. And so she had said, watch for treason, watch for people being convicted of treason. And the two people she named, she said a lot of people, but she didn't name any names. But the two people she named were those two women I just talked about. And I was like, okay, well, there's your confirmation for that. But when people have like you said, right, this nation was built around the foundation of the Bible, a Constitution. There's many. The Constitution was taken from, things we use in a Bible, the law, same thing.
Sure.
But when you come from another country and you believe, especially when you believe that your country you came from is the country the way it should be here, right? That socialism, those things, those are imported from over there. It's the same thing, Sharia law, stuff like that. And so now you think that you should turn this country into where you came from, or your views on being a communist. I mean, it's just, why do these people get voted in? Like, I mean, he hasn't yet, but these other people that we're seeing there over and over and over, well, that area where they represent is packed with people who believe in that as well. So it's just,
well, there's an interesting thing that's going to be going on. It's actually something that I just heard about before we came on air here today. That there's the IRS has said this, and I was pulling up this article, so I'm gonna allude to it really quick here. Yeah, so it's an AP story, and it basically says, and I'm going to read the title for it. It says, pastors who endorse political candidates shouldn't lose their tax-exempt status, the IRS says in a filing. And basically what happened is that a group of Christians sued so that pastors could say from the pulpit who they endorse, and not lose their 501c3 status. That up until 1954, pastors could say anything they want, but Lyndon Johnson at the time said no. They introduced what they called the Johnson Amendment, and that Johnson Amendment basically said, look, if you're a tax exempt organization, you can't say anything. Well, if this is enacted, and I'm pretty sure it will be, pastors will be able to say pretty much anything they want from the pulpit and not lose our tax exempt status. And you and I have talked about this before over the years, is that pastors are trying to weigh whether they want to keep their tax exempt status or say the truth. Well, now they're actually able to. Here's the point. The reason why we're at this point right now, the Bible was taken out of basically teachers up until 1962 were able to start Bible clubs, start the class with prayer, teach the Bible up until 1962. We are the first generation that did not have this, did not have the Bible as our main focus in our schools in generations. And now all we're seeing is a manifestation of it. Why are we seeing people voting for Muslims? Why are we voting for people who are anarchists? Why are we voting for, this, that, and thing? Well, they don't have the thing that basically was the glue for society. our founding fathers said, guess what? We want you to read the Bible because you'll know right from wrong. You'll know who's a good leader and who's not a good leader. But if you take the Bible out, guess who you're going to vote for? The guy on TikTok. That's Mom Donnie. He's that guy on TikTok, right? That's the only reason why people voted for him. Because if they knew right from wrong, they would never vote for that guy.
So what you're telling me is a Democrat wrote a law to squash free speech.
I
Is what you're
didn't say
telling me.
that. You just
That's
observed
exactly what you're telling me.
it.
Wow, what a surprise, huh?
What a surprise, huh?
That what a surprise.
Yes.
I mean, wow. So the government came in and said, if you want to not pay taxes, then you can't talk about political stuff in the pulpit. Why did we say, okay, that sounds like a great idea? That's ridiculous. We should have just
Yep.
paid taxes and been done with it. Instead, the pool of more money,
Mm-hmm.
that that is a oh man, I've said
Yeah.
this so many times. Like that is a problem with the ecclesia, in a sense, but
Well,
it's
well, here's the thing about it. So I know we could actually point to the church and go, church in 1954, you did this, but the churches could only excuse me, who was in charge of Congress at that time? That's who voted all this in, and evidently, who was in control in those days is the ones that we probably need to look at. I know the Civil Rights Act of in the 50s it was in 54ish too. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, it was voted for, and that Eisenhower wanted it to pass. It was voted down by the Democrats in the 50s. It didn't come back up again until the 60s, and at that point, that's when Kennedy goes, yes, let's go for it, and then Johnson, yay, and everybody seems to think the Democrats are the greatest thing in the world. But yes, it was. One political party was pushing to make sure that there were no more Christians saying anything because we have such a big voting bloc. So my question to you, I guess, is this: moving forward, because we can't go back, right? We can't redo anything over because it's done. But moving forward now, do you think pastors are going to go into the pulpit now with this newfound opportunity, this newfound freedom? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And do you think they're going to take advantage of being able to endorse or to say be more political from the pulpit?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so 100% because if we look back at the Bible, right? David was a politician. We see the okay, let's just say prophets, right? Let's say the prophets.
The
They
prophets,
dealt with all the politicians
they were definitely political.
from
Yep.
from Jehu and Jezebel and Ahab to David, and I
Oh
mean
yeah.
there is nowhere in the Bible that say you should not, you know, says
Mm-hmm.
you should pray, but God raises up kings and he brings them down. Like sometimes he had to raise up a king from another country to bring Israel out of what they were doing
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
and
there's
stomp
tons
on
of
them. You
examples.
know,
There's tons of examples of because where specifically where the Bible says, "Hey, get involved with this." Okay, but there are
yeah,
definitely examples. There are examples like you're saying, David. And all the prophets. All the
sure.
prophets were very political. The influence of the church on the culture has always been there, and it's really up until basically, literally. I'm telling you, I and I'm trying to connect all the dots because this is your favorite thing, connect the dots, right? Um, I'm thinking in about the 60s, that's when everything went sort of crashed and burned in America.
Definitely 100%. Let's just say whenever this counterculture rose up and said we don't want to go to church anymore, we don't want to uh
Mm-hmm.
we want to take drugs and have, free love and all this stuff, that is definitely when it went downhill because I mean, I know there's so many things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about,
Mm-hmm.
but I had sent you a video a while ago, and it was from a man that worked in the government.
Okay.
And he worked in the government for a long time, but his job was working on Project Morningstar, I think it was called. And basically, what was happening was the Russians during the Cold War was getting this information, and they didn't understand how they were getting this top secret information. And what it was they were using people in the occult to project, what do you call it, astro
Astral project.
project.
Yeah.
And they were looking over people's shoulders and getting information and bringing it back to them. And once the Americans figured out what they were doing, they did the same thing, and it was right at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
they made a covenant with evil to do this. But then, so it started getting real bad. Anyways, there's a lot to it, but if you listen to this man, he's a pastor now, he's retired, and he just like lays it out, like I mean, just amazing, like how these things. Then, in a certain at a certain time, there was they decided, you know what, this man was a Christian, and he realized that this is wrong what we're doing. I'm going to use Christians, prophets. And so they did the same thing, but it was like Kim Clement was on it,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Sheets, Dutch Sheets. They were all on this project working for the government. And there was a day where they came in and was like, you know what? This just needs to stop. And they had like a 2-day prayer and worship thing. And he said, you felt the lift, the darkness over the country just lift. And, I mean, you can believe in spiritual things or not. It is what it is. You have to understand to look down from a 20,000-foot view at what's really happening, right? And that's my job to say. This is what I say. This is what I see. But my goodness, like we really have no idea what goes on behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
especially at this time. Like if you look at a pictures from Woodstock, all of the booths, Carl, like, learn about Marxism, learn about socialism, learn
Sure.
about
Sure.
communism, free food, learn about
Yeah.
communism. Like, I was
And the
looking at
kids go,
pictures
"Yeah,
on
man,
the
sounds good,
documentary.
man." Yeah,
I'm like, oh my goodness, everything is about socialism and communism.
that's
It's
it.
crazy.
Well,
But my
it's
mother
because
would have
that
told
is
me it was about free love.
it is free
Yeah.
love. They call it
Yeah.
flirty. I think in the Christian sense they call it flirty fishing, right? Well, they
Mhm.
get a good-looking girl that comes out there and she gets you and hooks you by flirting. Well, the Marxists do the same thing, right? The devil does the same thing. He finds, hey, let's do some drugs, man. Hey, come on in, let's talk about Stalin. Hey, guess what? Sure, babe. And these guys, before they know it, they're hooked, right? And now
Yeah.
they're leading because now they're gonna have more girls, right, or something like that. Who knows? It's just, but I think we have a great opportunity right now because when I heard about this thing with the 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 nixing of being able to stop. Now, here's the thing about it: is they say that they never really push the whole thing about pastors being able to say what they want in the pulpit. They say they never push because I've gone to black Baptist churches and I guarantee you they do talk about it. I've heard them and I've seen them on YouTube talking about it. And it's like you go, my gosh, dude, how can you say this? You're on YouTube, and you are full out you're having a rally, right, for the left or whatever, or the right or whatever. Well, they say, well, because they don't really push it. Well, now they're saying we're taking this back. We're not even going to even say anything to you guys about it. You can say. So I said this on a different show, is that 72% of Americans say that they are Christians, which makes you go, wait a minute. This is a huge voting block. It's a huge, even if you get 50%, even if you get 25% of those people who say that they're Christians to vote and to listen, you're going to start changing the culture, man. And I mean, you're never going to get it all at one shot, but it's now if you can get pastors to actually wake up and start doing what they're supposed to do. I think that's going to be key.
Well, I mean, how many of those people actually go to church and watch pastors? You know, I mean, I don't know, but here's a problem, right? There's so much division, right? You got some churches that believe that they integrated LGBTQ into their church. They're not going to vote for you know a righteous man. They're going to vote for somebody who pushes their agenda.
Hmm.
You have, and then like you said, um, you have people that have Kamala Harris come talk at their church.
It's true.
It
Yeah.
is a block, but there has to be some kind of unity first before you can
Um,
even tackle that block. There's
I don't know
no
if you're.
there.
I don't know if
Everybody
that's
wants
practical.
their way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be
Uh,
practical. I don't think you're ever going to have everybody go. There used to be a time, right? There used to be a time when everybody believed Yahweh. That's it. He's the only way. He's the truth. He's life. Right? That was it. Moses was his man. Okay, even though you had his sister-in-law and the brother-in-law, they were kind of still jabbering a little bit. Most of them followed that, and there was a mono. It was they were all. It was a theocracy, right? They all believed in one God. Those days are gone. Okay, but does that mean we cannot still be influential in the society? I would still say
well,
we
yeah, you'll
could.
be influential. Yeah, you'll be influential whichever path you lead to. But
Hmm.
do you honestly say that somebody who votes for abortion is a Christian?
No,
That's
I would say no.
sacrifice.
I
So
would say no.
no,
Yeah,
I would say no too. But
yeah,
I definitely believe that you're a pastor, you have
yeah.
congregants, you are definitely influential.
Hmm.
Um, I have people that I minister to on a
Hmm.
daily basis, and
Yeah,
do they look to me when things happen all the time?
sure.
Hey, I gotta talk to you about something. Like, what's up? Whatever it is, and I'm just like, look at this is what the Bible says. All
Hmm.
right, you're right. All right, cool,
Yeah,
thank you. Christians are influential, but it's whatever path you take, right,
sure,
is the problem. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be unity between all these. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
sure.
um, unity in a sense where there's Christians and people who say they're Christians and not. That's never going to be unity.
Oh
People who
no, no.
vote for sacrifice,
Oh my gosh! I just
that's not
thought
what I
about
mean. I
something.
mean,
You know what I'm thinking? There was there was a great awakening. There's been a couple of great awakenings in American society. I'm wondering if this is going to be the next great awakening
oh, we've been
because you
talking
did.
about it for 4 years.
But what was the thing that it? But is this what it took? I mean, so we were looking. It's almost like the Israelites, right? The Israelites were looking for this when Jesus came in, right? They said he's going to come in with a sword, probably a big, big chest
Sure.
plate, and the Fabio hair, right? He's going to come in, and he's going to destroy the Romans, right? But he didn't. He came in low, riding on a donkey, that kind of thing, and he's preaching love and peace, man. What's up, man? Okay, we have been looking for the next great awakening to possibly come out of some college town someplace, or maybe at a rock, maybe Brandon Lake will be, singing, hey, what's up, rattle, or something like that, right? And then all of a sudden, weeks later, they're still praying and people are getting baptized. Maybe this was actually it. You took the chains off of pastors who have been wanting to do this. They've been wanting to say something, but their hands were tied because we didn't make the laws. We didn't make the laws back in the 50s, right? Most of us weren't even born yet. Now, 50 years later, 60 years later, all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, we just took the chains off of you guys. Maybe this is the start of the next great wave using a different road now. Instead of using the Roman road, now we're actually going to be able to use the pulpit for what it was made to, because we got handcuffed, man. I mean, we got handcuffed in '54.
Well, in a legal sense, I think a lot of people still did. I mean, I went to a church in Albuquerque it was big. You're talking like 10,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and the pastor was just man, that man was on fire. I when he was done preaching, I was like, I wish this wasn't over. That's how I used to feel going there. And I remember during an election, he had was handing out papers to people, and basically he had circled all of the men with Christian values. It was like a ballot, you know, and he circled all the men with Christian values and said, "Hey, here's all the men that I believe had Christian values." And half of his church left. Oh, how dare you tell me to vote for her? And you know what? We'll see. We'll see what that. But can I say this? Every single great awakening, or let's say, okay, Jesus, Azusa Street, or whatever it was, there was all Elijah and the prophets of Baal. There was all one thing they had in common, was a display of the power of God, the actual like power of God. Every
Mm-hmm.
time there was something that happened that was like, here it is. Now it's time to move forward. So, you know, with Jesus, he had the resurrection. With Elijah, you had fire from the sky. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he had, and I do believe that, yes, this is opening the door for, you know, 1700s type of preaching where they preached about who's coming up in the election. Well, you know, we're going to war with this people, or we're doing this politics. You know, they definitely said, what does the Bible say about this? You know, whatever it is, what this
Mm-hmm.
person's views or and I think that is so influential. You're right. It is something that is going to change pulpits. But again,
Yeah.
in that circumstance, when that church, they, you know, he was very popular. And when he handed out a paper and just said, these are the people with Christian values that are running for office,
Yeah.
the next week that place was half empty.
Oh, because he
So,
said something.
you
Sure.
know,
Oh,
because
you're
he
gonna
said
always
something.
offend people. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna
Out
definitely
of
offend people.
10,000, 5,000 left.
Oh yeah, I
So
believe it.
I think it's a give and take, but it doesn't mean that it won't normalize later. You know what I
No.
mean? Like this will become the norm later and people won't be offended. But yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just
I think that it
so
is.
many things coming.
You're in the. So on any Sunday, there's huge divisions in the church, and you can look out at the congregation. Half of them probably, even though you think that they're all conservative, Bible believing, pro life, pro family folks. The chances are you're going to find some that are not. Okay. Well, unfortunately, that's unfortunately for pastors, that's not my job. My job is not to sit there and try to be nice to you guys. My job is to speak the word and to speak the truth. And if you go out the door because you're offended, that's because the Bible has offended you, not because I offended you.
Yeah.
And I've got to my job is just to tell you the truth. And if I don't tell you the truth, guess what? I'm not doing my job. I've gone to churches where pastors have let their whole congregation think that abortion is just fine, and they've never spoke the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, you do know that there's going to be a price to pay for that. And I've told these guys, and they hated me. And I go, look, don't be upset at me. I didn't write the book. He wrote the book. Okay, you need to tell your people that this is wrong, and that if you support anybody who does this, that's even worse. Because 95% of black churches teach that you being a Democrat and supporting the Democrat Party is just fine. Woohoo! I go, you do know that they live and die on the issue of abortion, and now it's LGBTQ plus LMNOP or whatever it is. Okay, it's just that they're worshiping at the altar of Baal. And
Mm-hmm.
you're as a pastor, you are not saying anything to your people about it. That's wrong, and they know it. So I'm glad I'm not the one who has to sort them out at the end of the day. My job is just to preach the word, man, and pray for those folks and pray for these pastors, saying, pastors, please just tell the truth. But I know now knowing what I know now about what this potential opportunity is here, I think you're going to see pastors who were once pretty weak and timid. I think they're going to probably be just a little bit bolder. And I think they're going to say, hey, let the chips fall the way they may.
I hope so. I really hope so because the you know, geez, the job of a pastor is to protect his flock, even if that's from doing something that that's from stopping them from enabling them to do something wrong.
Hmm.
That is definitely the job of pastor, is to preach the truth, right? You just said it, to preach truth.
Hmm.
And I look at my position in the kingdom, right? Is protecting the kingdom, right?
Hmm.
Your job as a pastor is to protect the flock, and my job as a somebody who lives in the prophetic realm is to protect the kingdom. you know and so it's I hope, I really do, I really hope that people run forward with this. But I'm afraid. Gosh, remember, I had a vision, and I know I told it to you, it was a while ago, but I saw a pastor giving up everything, or he gave up his flock because he was about to lose everything. He gave up what he was doing, or the people, or something in his church, because he was about to lose everything. I really hope that's not this, but
Okay.
anyways, I do. I feel like it'll be a mix, but I think it'll take time to normalize. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we will find out. This is
That's
going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. But folks, if you're listening to this broadcast right now and you just heard this, what we were talking about, um, keep this in mind, because it's July 8th, and we were talking about this possibility that pastors are going to be able to start speaking the truth. And this Sunday will tell. Actually, tomorrow we'll be able to tell, because tomorrow's midweek, right? And if pastor's going to start saying something, I'll probably take advantage of it tomorrow.
jeez.
Amen. You sent
All
me a
right.
couple of things here, because we don't have a lot
Yeah.
of
Let's
time
go.
left, but I know see what
Yeah.
happens when you start talking about stuff, and it's just amazing.
I know, man, and that's the Holy Spirit gets involved, and you just like, he wants to talk to you. So, all right, let me get started on this, and I'll give you
Go for it.
so this. All right. Oh, where's my vision? I had a vision. This was like pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me. So I'll read this dream. This was December 29, 2023, and I think this kind of goes along with what we were talking about, right? Um, I was at a church service, and it was in a park. So there was actually many services going on, and um, there was no walls, but it was, there was a carpet and pews and an altar and a pastor at the pulpit, and they were, speaking and preaching, but there was no walls. But I walked in, and it was, like I said, there was many different. There was a Lutheran church, and then there was a Baptist church, but they were all preaching. Let's just say truth. I guess you could say. So I walked into this church, and it had no walls. I saw the pastor, and I knew him in the service that he was in, and I did not have a shirt on, and they were looking at all my tattoos, and I knew everybody was looking at me like, you're different, like, you're weird. And so they were looking at my tattoos. It was just a weird thing. Like, they were just kind of looking at me like, mm. So I quickly put a shirt on. And after the service was over, I went to talk to the pastor, but he took off. And then so I tried to chase after him, and I couldn't catch him. So then I walked into a Catholic service, and I knew that this Catholic service was for veterans. So, kind of like we were talking about the different churches and stuff, but I knew this was like open. It was in a park, and all the different services, even though you went into them, you still felt the Holy Spirit, except for those people who are staring at me, because obviously I'm different, than I don't fit their mold, kind of thing. Uh I mean, I you can, yeah, I'm I'm not like everybody else. So anyways, when I went into the Catholic service, it was for veterans, but they taught about blood, the cross, Jesus Christ crucified. And then you went into the Baptist, and it was about um, saved by grace. Basically the Baptist type doctrines. You went into the other service, and you learned about whatever they're, like Pentecostal, and they taught about the power of God, and speaking in tongues. But you could go between and learn everything. It wasn't just that they were divided. The Catholics knew about the blood and Christ crucified the best. So when you went in there, you learned about that. And the Baptists knew about grace and being saved by grace. So you went in there, and you knew about that. So let's see here. So, anyways, there was that, and I knew that these are, of course, future events, something
Okay.
happening later.
So do you think this is going to
And
be
then
something for the future?
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I believe when God pours out on His people, whatever is bad, let's say, whatever is not good, is going to rise to the top, and you'll
Okay.
see that, right? That's what we're seeing right now. God pouring out on His people, and people just being angry for no reason because they're infested, or it's pushing it out. You could say even Christians.
Okay.
But yes, I do believe that it won't be like this is the new denomination everybody's going to go to. I believe you're going to learn about all the different aspects of the Bible from all the different churches, even though the power of God will be there. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit will be in the middle of these services.
Okay.
All
Interesting.
right, so
Hmm.
yeah, I know that's pretty. Let's see. Also on so this was February 26, 2024. God showed me the inner workings of the church.
Okay.
It was a vision. Like I saw the inner workings of the church, but it was modern times, like today. And he was showing me like how this worked and how this worked and how the money was counted and this, and it was like everything. And then he showed me how he chose people to be saved, because later on he would use them. He showed me how he chose people,
Sure.
and then later they would be used to heal and save others. And it was yeah, that's to me was very. It was the heart. The
Yeah.
knowledge had nothing to do with it. It was all about their heart.
Sure.
You could be, a 6 doctorates degree, more degrees than a thermometer. It don't mean
Uh-huh.
nothing. It was, what is your heart? Are you
Yeah.
obedient to me? Because I'm going
Sure.
to tell you to do things that nobody wants to hear.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah,
And
it was
that's and
it was
that
good.
squares with what Scripture was, because you
Yeah,
know
100%.
it. You could see, Samuel goes looking for, he goes to talk to Jesse. And he goes, "Hey, Jesse, the Lord sent me here because I got to anoint one of your kids, right?" And he goes, "Oh, it must be talking about big boy over here, or it must be talking about this big boy over there, or this guy with the Superman thing, the hair." And he goes, "No, no, none of those guys. Got another one?" "Yeah, I got a scrappy little one out in back there. He's kind of dirty and he stinks probably." "Yeah, that's the guy." you know, he's the guy who's got the heart that God is looking for,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
that's yeah.
sure.
That
Yeah,
that was it. Like
yeah.
it was I think that one was really deep. It was just, you know, just like you said, when he got there to Jesse's house, he's like, "Here's my son with the squigman swirl in his head like
He's got the
Superman."
squirrel. He's got to have it, right? Sure, he's the
This the
Superman
the
guy,
squiggy
kid.
the squiggy swirl.
Yeah,
So yeah, and every single time you look through the Bible, it never turns out the way men thought it was going to turn out.
never does.
So,
Never
and
does.
that's the thing, right? It was the heart. Are you going to be able to do with what I do, not what
Hmm.
everybody tells you is supposed
Yeah.
to happen? And that to me is like, wow, because to
Well,
be a rebel in the God's kingdom is a
I think
hard thing
we
to do.
we put such an emphasis now. I was reading something about the founding fathers and how they believe that you shouldn't have elections, that they should be people who choose men and women to lead them, not people who say I want to do this. Because if they say you want to do it, you probably have an ulterior motive, and that they didn't think that was a good
Mm.
idea. But if people recognize that you were the guy, that's why George Washington, that's why all these guys they were all recognized for who they were, the character, that kind of stuff. And they said, we want you to be one of our representatives. Now, here's the thing about it is if you were one of those guys, you couldn't refuse, right? You couldn't say, nope, nope, can't do it. Nope. They would say, oh no, we chose you, right? And that was very biblical also, because remember Moses Moses and Jethro, right? His father-in-law. He says,
Hmm.
pick out of the tribes of Israel. You pick these guys. He wasn't like, hey, let's have a big major campaign and to raise as much fund, their money and stuff like that. He said,
Right.
choose for yourself, right? And generally it was guys that nobody really thought were going to be the guy, but they were. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that is so. God picks. Okay. Um, just
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, people think it's I've been doing this so long, it's my turn, right? But God
Mm-hmm.
picks through His
Yeah,
people, right? He
God
sent a
picks.
prophet to Jesse's house to say, nope, nope, nope,
Nope.
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 Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
And men, like our delegates, are I'm sorry, the when we choose somebody who's going to run for the Democrat or Republican
Mm-hmm.
Party, it's supposed to
Yeah.
be somebody that's chosen by the people because of their, but
That's
no,
exactly. Yeah.
it's a good old boy club. And
Yep.
that's why they hated Trump, because he was not part of their club.
No.
No, 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 you're messing up our system. We want
Yeah.
this guy to be the Republican next. Well, it's not up to the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to God and his people to
Yes.
choose
Mm-hmm.
who the next person to represent us is. That's why they hated him from the very beginning,
Oh, you
because he
better
said,
believe it, because he was ruining he flipped over the apple cart, man. I'll tell you,
that
they're
is
going
100% the truth.
they're going. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me, dude? It was my turn. It was my turn. Right?
Yeah, that's the truth. God
Sure.
raises up kings and he takes them down. And
Yeah, he
some, like I
does.
said, sometimes he had to raise somebody bad to spank everybody, to
That's true.
say, "Look what you're doing. You're falling." Look at that's what happened with the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Trump, oh, we didn't take it granted, and then you had a lot of prophets, and I really believe that a lot of them saw, but they didn't interpret
Yeah.
correctly,
Mm-hmm.
or they just watched other prophets and went along. I don't know, but if if you really look at it, anyways, the point is he had to raise up somebody to spank you, to
Yeah.
get you back into line, to realize that I'm in charge here and I'm going to hurt you a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we're going to be all good.
And it'll be
So
good. Sure.
I wanted to read this was a vision. It was
Sure.
like a
Go for it.
half awake, half asleep type of thing.
Uh-huh.
I saw a news reporter sitting behind a news desk, but it was outside in the middle of a big grass field. And so there was basically like the Fox newsroom, but it was in a like a the park in front of Congress.
Uh-huh.
And they were reporting on something. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I knew in the spirit that it was a public execution.
Wow.
And so this goes along with the confirmation and these people that dream where they were getting sentenced for treason. Um, I really believe this is. I think I've been saying this for a couple of years with just you and I talking, but I really believe this is the next. We're gonna find things that we didn't realize were so dark. I think we had to go through that 4 years to get spanked, but also to prepare your heart for how evil these people really were and what they
Mm-hmm.
were doing. Because I'll tell you, especially the older generation, they're like, no, no, they would never do that. No, no, no. Yeah, we've been seeing
They
it,
would.
how dark it really is. All these little exposures that are happening with
Sure.
these people, 4 people getting indicted for stealing money from USAID.
Yep.
All these little things coming out are just like slowly bubbles popping until it's all of a sudden just everywhere. And people needed to know this. So, you have something you want to say about that? Because I got one
Yeah.
more, and it's
Yeah.
kind of
As a matter,
irrelevant.
we're gonna run out of time here, but you mentioned that about USAID, and there was an article that I was just looking at today, and it was talking about these staffers who are basically plotting insurrection, and they're bragging about it. And here's the thing, there's always people who say, "Hey, we're part of the deep state or everything else like this." But these guys are basically saying, "No, no, you don't understand it. We run this place. We don't care what you are doing when you come in here, Trump. We don't care what anybody come. We run this, and it's our obligation to make sure you are not successful." And so they did this video, and we don't have time to look at it now, but it was chilling, folks. If you get a chance to look at it, it's in hotair.com, and and the title of it is, and we'll actually put it up on the website, up on our Facebook, on Godstream TV. But it's chilling because you mentioned that there's this dark underbelly that's going on. Well, these guys say we are that. We're the
Mm-hmm.
deep state. We're proud of being the deep state, and it is ours, and we're not giving it up. And so they're going to do everything they can in the next couple of years to try to destroy the agenda the will of the American people, because they think they basically know better than we do. It's scary.
I there was a we talked about this dream where I was the Lord was slicing people in half, and He said, "Now that they've fallen in the spirit, you'll see them fall in the natural." Just because, um, let's say that spirit of whatever it was in them left, they're not going to give up what they
No.
have
Yep.
because that's their oh Trump won, okay, I'm just gonna go home, not
Mm-mm.
gonna do it. No, no, they're not gonna give up their positions just because the spirit was cut out, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean
Sure.
that's pretty true, but
Yeah. Well, these guys
um
basically said you had been better off because they got fired. He said you would have been better off letting us sit at our desks with nothing to do than for you to fire us, because now you've loosed us. Is what they're saying. You've loosed us into the population. And you go, what? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? They said, yeah, you should have never fired us, because now we have got all of the information. We've got all the contacts. We know how to topple governments. These guys, so you hit something on. You were talking about treason. You're talking about people, the dark underbelly of society. These guys are basically it's actually in print, and they made a video saying, "Hey guys, guess what? Um, we're not standing for this anymore. We're going to set up little organizations all across the United States to do our bidding," and it's just kind of a scary thing. Definitely something I'm going to definitely pray about. But we just have a couple more minutes. Go for it.
okay, I'll read it. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so this is a pretty long one, and I really feel it's kind of perfect for today. So me and my wife were in Washington D.C., and we were standing in line to take a tour of the White House. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling very groggy. I felt like I was drunk, and I fell down on the floor and passed out. When I woke up, there was some people standing over me, like, "Hey, are you okay?" And there was people standing over me, and my wife was gone. And I thought, oh, like maybe she's angry, like she thought I was drunk or something. I don't know. So I left and I was searching to her for her in, downtown DC, I guess. I don't know what it's called, but and I was searching for her and I had our suitcases. And when after like searching all day, I put the suitcases on the sidewalk and went to look around the corner. And when I came back, these two men were digging through my suitcase. And I got angry and I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of my stuff. And they looked really scared. They said, "We found something. Do you want to see what we found?" And so I went into a room and she was tied up in that room. She was being held hostage. So when I got in there, the two men that were in there, I beat them, like just beat them up. And then I took her. And later on in the day, we were cleaning out our car, and I said, "All right, just tell me everything that happened. I want to know that you're okay. Just tell me what happened." And she said, "Well, I was standing in line to get into the White House and I started feeling groggy and real drunk. And next thing I know, these two men were carrying me off." And I was like, okay, okay. I could see that she was crying about it. I could see she felt like sad that that happened. And then, so we were just kind of standing there, like she was crying, I was hugging her. And then a side hack motorcycle came by and almost ran over our feet. And that was it. I don't know what the side hack means, but definitely this is something I need to pray into because this was just too long ago. And the fact that we were going into the White House and both of us like passed out for no reason and she was kidnapped.
Of what?
It was I don't know. There was just feelings about the dream that it's hard to explain. That when I was looking for her, I was frantic. And when I
Yeah.
came, when those men were looking through my suitcase like they were trying to rob me,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as they saw the light, you know what I mean? They saw the spirit, I guess you could say, and
Yeah.
then knew that they had to tell me that they had this woman, like come see, as if
Well,
I
I
wouldn't
wonder.
beat them up.
Sure. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on this one. We'll definitely have to,
Yeah,
and see
I'll
what the
definitely
Lord's going
pray
to
in
do
it.
with
I
this.
just wanted to put it out
Yeah. Okay. And see what's
because
going.
it's
Okay.
something. There's something there.
Oh, definitely. Or it might be something for somebody else that they're hearing it too, and they're going, "Oh, wait a minute. I don't know." Yeah.
That's
Somebody else.
true. That's true.
Yeah. Somebody else might be hearing this and going, "You know what? You said that, and that's exactly what the Lord's been speaking to me too." Wow.
You know what else
Praise
though?
God.
I'll say this real quick. I saw
Mm.
maybe a week or so, maybe a week and a half. I don't know. Before it was after this dream for sure. I saw that somebody was poking women with needles in England. There was like a festival, and like 120 some women were being stabbed with needles, like a
Oh,
syringe.
ouch.
And they
Wha-
caught the 10. There was 10 of them, and they were doing it in this festival, music festival, and they're all younger girls.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That
I don't know if those these two things are connected, but I did
that's
see that. I'll send it to you. You can check it
that is very strange. Yes. Okay. Definitely do. All right,
out.
Aaron, we're running over time, but brother, I thank you so much once again, man, and we'll definitely keep an eye out on this last vision the Lord gave you, because I think it'll be very interesting. And
Yeah.
folks, if you've been watching this broadcast and this has meant something to you, if it's speaking to you, go ahead and leave something in the comment section over here, and we'll stick around just for just a couple more minutes at the end of the show, and answer any questions that you have in the comment section. Aaron, we'll talk to you a little later. Okay? Why don't you you can answer that over there if you'd like. Go over there, and I think you've got a couple of people over there in the comment section over there too. And I'll finish up the show. Okay.
You got it, buddy.
All right, we'll see you. And so, folks, I want to thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast. And once again, if you want to get the entire broadcast, just go over to GodstreamTV.com, and you can check out the whole show. Go up to where it says Godstream TV up at the top, and just follow the link down there, and you can get right to the show. You can actually see some of the old shows too. Or if you'd like to just hear it, go to Spotify or to Apple Podcasts. And of course, there's also people that they would love to write to us. You can write to us at thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. It's thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. Thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast, folks. We will see you again next week for This Week in Prophecy. You guys have a wonderful day in the Lord. It's been Pastor Sherman Ray. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.